Okay. Good evening. It is Monday, December 1st, 5:15, and this is the HRC retreat. And Carlos, I will pass it to you to start us off. Tonight, we have a little bit of a interesting agenda because we are going to be swearing in our new commissioners. We have one agenda item to discuss, and then we will have our retreat. So I pass it over to you, Carlos.
Ok, buenas noches. Como dijo Cristian, tenemos una agenda muy buena. Vamos a tomar juramento a nuestros nuevos comisionados. Y pues, Cristian, te cedo la palabra.
For the first item on tonight's agenda, we will do the swearing in of our new commissioners, and we have on camera up here Mindy Miller, who's joining us from the East Coast, and she's just going to take the oath for tonight, and then we'll join her family, and then will join us in meetings afterwards. And Jorge, we have in person. So I think the best way to do this is probably going to be, I will read out the oath, Mindy, and you can just repeat after me, and we can do one after the other.
Yep.
Mindy, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, that
Awesome.
works.
Okay. So bear with me just a second. So Mindy, if you can, just repeat after me. I, Mindy Miller,
I, Mindy Miller,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and of the state of Colorado
and of the state of Colorado
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Boulder,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Boulder,
and faithfully perform the duties of office of a member of the Human Relations Commission.
and faithfully perform the duties of office of a member of the Human Relations Commission of Boulder,
Perfect, on which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
Fantastic. And just a housekeeping item, I did receive your signed copy, and so I will, after tonight's meeting, sign it, and you'll have the final copy in your inbox.
Great, thanks.
And with that, congratulations. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you for accommodating my not being able to be there. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry to miss.
All good. We're happy to have you for the brief time that we have, and
Okay.
we'll let you get back to family time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mindy.
All right. Jorge,
Here we go.
ready to roll? Do you want to just read it off the screen? Okay.
easier.
Since you can actually see it, thank you.
I, Jorge Martinez, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and of the state of Colorado and the charter and ordinances of the city of Boulder, and faithfully perform the duties of the office of a member of the Human Relations Commission, in which I am about to enter. We're back.
All right. Cool. Thank you. And I did get your signed copy as well, so we are all good to go. We pass back to okay. Carlos, kind of pass it back to you.
Bueno, nuestro siguiente punto es, vamos a hablar sobre una carta. Si todos estamos de acuerdo, enviársela al Consejo Municipal y tiene que ser antes del 19 de diciembre. ¿Sí? Entonces, para esto nos va a dirigir Cristian de cómo podemos elaborar esta carta.
Fantastic. So, for the first time in 2 years, the boards and commissions commission or committee, boards and commissions staff have informed us that city council is accepting letters in advance of their retreat, where we can suggest priorities, priority items. I have here a sort of template that was provided to us that we are to follow if the commission would like to provide this. Recommendations from boards and commissions to inform discussions at their 2026 council retreat, setting 1-year council priority projects. Priorities be limited in number and expected to be able to be completed in 12 months or less. And proposed priorities should align with the citywide strategic plan or existing department plans for each board and commission. And like Carlos mentioned, this letter would need to be received by Friday, December 19th, so a little less than 3 weeks from now. If the commission does not decide to write a letter this round, there will be another opportunity in June of 2026, so about 6 months. So with that, I pass it back to you all for conversation.
So a letter was issued 6 months ago. So you said 2 years ago.
That was the last time that I believe city council accepted letters from boards and commissions to recommend priorities.
City council can, if you all decided you wanted to write a letter to council, you can do that when you want, but there are specific times, like Christian said, but leading up to a city council retreat, where they would typically say, okay, all boards and commissions, if you want to communicate suggestion or recommendation to us, you can do that for our retreat, and if so, please have letters in by that time.
Okay.
Have we done that in the past?
The HRC has definitely done that in the past, yeah. Do you remember?
Creo que la última carta la mandamos hace 2 años, creo.
Then member Christine,
Ujú.
drafted a letter that was discussed.
Which were the priorities that was suggested?
Do you remember?
No.
It was not about a specific kind of topic or issue. It was really making the point from the HRC's perspective that the HRC would like to have more directive and engagement from city council generally. We can certainly find that and circulate it if it's helpful, but it wasn't like, we want you to talk about or address this particular community issue. It was more,
And
we
did
would like-
something changed after that? Do you remember?
No.
not necessarily. Yeah, and I mean, I think one could interpret this invitation as, right, the invitation to do that.
They don't have any procedure, city council doesn't have a procedure to they're not, one, they're not forced to take on our priorities. Two, they don't even have to like address or say how they're gonna address our letter, or do they?
I mean, yeah, Reg is shaking his head. There's no rule, right? They do respond and the response is usually following a retreat. Here is, we're communicating to all boards and commissions that these are the city council kind of strategic priorities that we've identified, and that did happen. Everyone got that response, including HRC.
So, Carlos, you're very close to the community. What, just thinking, what are those priorities that we need to raise? That's what
Yo creo que no tenemos que mencionar mucho las prioridades de la comunidad. Lo que yo creo es de que debemos mencionar las prioridades que debemos tener la comisión con el consejo municipal. Lo que queremos es de que el consejo municipal nos tome más en cuenta a la comisión. Que tengamos más interacción, más contacto. Sí, porque se supone que nosotros somos como una especie de consejeros al consejo municipal. Y no ha pasado. Ya casi voy a cumplir mis 5 años y la única reunión con el consejo municipal fue la que tuvimos hace un mes.
Pues tal vez una petición sería hacer ese tipo de reuniones más seguido en el año. ¿Qué tan frecuentemente debería ser? ¿Cada 3 meses? Every 3 months?
Some sort of communication from them.
Yeah, and I mean, what I'm hearing is like, we want to have a closer relationship with them. And I'm also like hearing like, that I think they don't quite know how to come to us. It seems like, so there is a curiosity kind of going back to your original question is like, are there things that we think should be changed from the city level about how human relations is happening? Maybe we can do that. It's like, right now, it's like, I think they're asking for our perspective and they don't really know what they need our perspective on. And so maybe part of our job here is like, what are the things that we think they're missing other than just like a communication here? But right now, the communication is them saying, what do you think there should be? And we're like,
And that's my first question. So we can increase the frequency of communication, but if we don't have something to say, it's going to be difficult to maintain that communication. So we need to have clarity of what do we want to tell them?
yeah,
What are we advising them on? Probably we need to discuss that first and then propose a frequency of meeting with them.
I was going to suggest that maybe we go through part of our retreat, especially the part where we talk about a work plan and priorities and stuff, and then revisit this, because this is like, especially with you being fresh and Mindy not being here. I personally feel open to doing this, but I don't know on the agenda right now if I could make a decision.
yeah.
Yes, unless you go that route. If you go that route, then it's absolutely fine. Please continue your discussion. Here's what you need to know. Because of open meetings law, you can't just leave here, email each other back and forth on what it should look like, and then send it in. You can discuss what you want it to look like. 2 of you can meet, put something together. The problem is and then you would have to come back together as a group and all sign off on it. All of that before December 19th. So I don't know if you already have something scheduled before that, another meeting.
potentially, our normally scheduled meeting would be December 15th. So the Monday before this happens.
So if you go that route, you would discuss it amongst yourselves. What the topic would be, two of you would get together, draft it, bring it back to that meeting, finalize it.
I think that's good, and I think I would agree with you that I think that figuring out what the letter might be is probably best decided later in the meeting. I think it sounds like a lot of this retreat is like getting clear on who we are as a board and what we want to see more of in the city of Boulder, and most likely that will reveal what kind of letter you want to send to council.
What do you two think? That, are you okay with moving it, tabling it until the end?
Makes sense.
Are you okay with that?
Just a question,
Can we
Rebecca,
do that?
can we push the vote to the end of the meeting? If we're, like, these are our two agenda items, was the swearing in and then this?
Yes,
We can bump a vote?
he can.
Okay, Carlos can. Okay,
Do we need a motion? Phew.
so Emily's suggesting, let's wait until later after the retreat portion of the meeting. So Carlos, that decision then would be yours.
Sí, está bien.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Any other questions on this before we move on to the retreat portion? Okay. Okay. So here's the agenda for the retreat portion of our meeting, and it is 5:32, so we are in pretty good shape here. First off, we'll have an icebreaker, then I'll do a presentation that is gonna be a little repetitive to what Carlos, Jorge, and Aaron saw. It'll be somewhat repetitive for you, but some new-ish information regarding claims and such. Work plan discussion as well, and then the discussion about commissioners' communication leadership and then looking forward into 2026. So the more essentially what we discussed at the last meeting, which was like August at this point. I'm remembering. So, Emily, I can't remember if you were gonna do the icebreaker. I think so,
Oh,
but
I think I volunteered, but I didn't prepare one.
Carlos, on the agenda, the question for the icebreaker that you came up with is
Oh,
on
okay,
there.
thank you.
Se las leo en inglés. Dice, what does community leadership mean to you?
Thank you, Carlos.
So Emily, if you have anything you want to add in there before we start.
Oh, yeah.
Or if not, it's also.
I mean, I think it was inspired, Carlos, you're gonna talk later about leadership. So inspired by, for us as commissioners, what does it mean to be community leaders? Not much else to say.
Great. Yeah, cool. Gonna go.
Sure.
To me, community leadership is like about like engagement, participation. Like it's like, if I want to be a leader in a community, then like it has to start by like seeing myself as a part of that community. And I feel like leadership is a lot about modeling, like modeling what it means to be a participant, modeling what it means to be in the community and be connected, and like how do I show up, how do I tend to what's happening there, build relationships. But to me, it really comes down to exploring my role and how I participate and doing my best to show up in a good way so that I can like model that, support others, also being a more meaningful part. And I think it also leadership and community leadership for me is big on like belonging and welcoming, like making sure that as others are coming into the community, that they really feel deeply included. Like, I think I see that as one of my responsibilities, is making sure people feel like they're a part of that stuff. Those are the big things that community leadership means to me.
Yeah, I think what sticks out to me in that is the community dimension, that to be a community leader doesn't mean acting on what I personally think is important. It's about being in tune and, as you said, Aaron, in relationship with members of different communities and understanding how all of those can be woven together, those priorities can be woven together. So I guess I see for myself community leadership as more of a bridge builder position.
Yeah, the liaison.
Mhm.
No. I think we become the ear, we listen to be the voice of community in this form, right? Without any judgment or judging people. We might disagree or not with what they want or what they think. Our responsibility as leaders just bring those things to the table to discuss and prioritize and propose. Right? It's a lot about engaging and be there. You cannot do that from your home or your office. You need to go and be there and listen and talk to them. I think that's it.
Para mí, el liderazgo comunitario es estar presente con la gente de la comunidad, ¿sí? Estar ahí y escuchar las necesidades que tienen, ¿sí? Y llevarlas a quien pueda ayudar o tratar de ayudar a resolver lo que la comunidad necesita o quiere, ¿sí? Como ustedes saben, yo he trabajado mucho en esto. Pues, sabía, ahorita ya no, porque nos han recortado muchas cosas, pero antes estaba más presente en las comunidades, estaba más, sabía lo que la gente necesitaba y sabía yo a quién dirigirme para llevarles soluciones. ¿Sí? Pero es a veces difícil, ¿sí? No es fácil ser un líder y es difícil a veces trabajar con las personas, con la gente. Pero entenderla y estar ahí.
Thank you, everybody. May we bring these tensions into our work, commitments into our work. Do either of you want to speak?
Sure. Yeah. I can speak from this role in particular. Carlos, what you just mentioned, specifically resonated with me because many times I am on the receiving end of folks in the community, leaders in the community, coming with an idea or a question or a problem or whatever it is. And I've worn several hats through my time in Boulder. And so I have made some relationships with folks to be able to connect the people to the proper organization or the proper agency or the proper person in the whatever structure that may be. And so that is what I hope to continue to bring to this group, as well as sort of to my just everyday job. And that also sort of lends itself to my personal volunteer work or personal work in particular. I hear a problem, I'm like, oh, actually, I know where you can go to get help with that, or I know where you might be able to, who you might be able to talk to about that. And so it's become somewhat of a thing that I can't really turn off now, but has become part of who I am. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of what it means to me, is what many of you have said, is acting as sort of a liaison or a connector, bridge builder.
Thank you, Christian.
Is there a lot of awareness in the community about what the HRC does?
My opinion would be probably not. I would open that up to other commissioners as well, to speak from your experiences.
And
I feel like I feel like that's like a bigger thing, and I kind of want to like click the circle, but also I'm down for the, but I think generally no. I think there's not a whole lot of awareness.
if you create that awareness, then naturally you will start getting that connection. Engagement.
Would you like to close this
Sure.
out?
Well, I would also invite Roberto back in the peanut gallery if you want to share as well. I would agree with what many of you have said about leadership. For me, in a community role or now working for local government, it also requires asking the question why, like why are things the way they are? And yes, there is like, here's a problem, what's the solution? But developing the understanding about why inequities exist, why this world is challenging for some people more than others. What is the role of government or people, right? What created that problem? And then making sure to the best of our abilities that what we do about the problem is actually addressing that root cause. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we make things worse. But that to me is one of the elements of leadership, important elements of leadership, and drawing attention as a group and a collective to understanding that more deeply. And yeah, and then everything others have said about connecting, bridge building, serving as that voice, using whatever access we have to make things better. Anything you want to share?
What was the actual question in relation
What
to
does
community?
What does community leadership mean to you?
Can I have a seat?
Yes. Well, the circle.
When I hear community leadership, I don't think in terms of a mayor or city council member. I don't think in terms of a traditional leader, in that individuals have decided that they are going to lead. When I think of community, I think of a handful of different communities. If, for example, that I'm a part of, right? I am a lawyer. I am also an officer in the United States Air Force. I am a person of color. I am a fitness coach, right? And so when I think of community leader, I think of the person who is willing to devote their time, devote their energy to something that they believe is important, without an entire group saying, we are giving you the authority to do it. I think the person who is willing to raise their hand and just address whatever needs to be addressed as a community. I almost got arrested in that process once, but that is a story for another day.
Wow,
My-
what a teaser.
In the melon fields of Brighton, Colorado.
Wow.
Wow.
We'll ask you about that later, Roberto.
That recording gives off.
What?
I said, when the recording goes off.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.
Mencionaron de que hay gente que no nos conoce, no saben quiénes somos. Pero hay otras personas y que sí nos conocen, que sabemos quiénes son, porque yo he hablado de la comisión, les he dicho quiénes somos, qué hacemos, ¿sí? Pero a veces me dicen, bueno, es que queremos tener contacto con la comisión. Sabemos que pues no podemos traer a la gente aquí, pero nosotros sí podemos ir a la gente. Sí. Entonces, yo pienso que para que nos conozcan, para que sepan quiénes somos, tenemos que estar en los eventos que nos invitan o que crea la ciudad para que sepa la gente quiénes somos. ¿Sí? La vez pasada, no me acuerdo, propusieron poner un stand en un evento de la ciudad de los comisionados, pero no se llevó a cabo. Entonces, quizás en un futuro podamos poner un stand en uno de los eventos que hace la ciudad para que conozcan y sepan quiénes somos los comisionados.
Mhm.
There's no budget for promoting, HR.
There,
Budget.
there is some. It is pretty limited, but we do have some, and we can also get creative with the budget that we have for like if there's specific ideas or anything like that. The HRC does have a budget level.
Because I agree, you need to go and participate in the events. Probably it's not enough, with 4 or 5 commissioners, it's difficult. Because I bet there's a lot of people that would like to express needs, but they don't know who to talk to or where to go. And maybe with that promotion, they come to us. Right.
I think that'll be a perfect discussion for the work plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
¿Algo más que quieran agregar?
No.
Entonces, vamos al punto 4. Esta es una presentación que nos va a hacer Cristian.
Were you just recognizing that it's my turn? That's okay.
Yes.
I didn't know
Like,
yet.
you're up.
Okay. All right. So I will do my best to get through this pretty quickly as it is a review for many of you. Jorge, this is going to be a crash course in the HRC. However, you got this already. But anyway, as a reminder and as a little bit of grounding into who we are, what we do, the Human Relations Commission, as you know, are 5 community members that reflect the various social, economic, ethnic, racial, and religious segments of the city. And our mission is to foster mutual respect and understanding, serve as a vehicle for suggestions on city policies and social problems, advise and assist the city government in relating human and social services to the needs of the city residents, as we kind of talked about before. the next point, as we kind of talked about before, providing advice and consultation to city council, which has not happened quite as much as some of you have mentioned in the past few years. You also, if and when called on, will participate in a quasi judicial process. If there are claims that come through my role that are appealed, the next step in that process would be they go to the commission for a quasi judicial process. That's hard to say, and a hearing in front of the commission. So I'm going to talk about the Human Rights Ordinance, which is the Boulder specific anti-discrimination ordinance, prohibits discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodation based on the protected classes that are up on the screen there. And won't go through each and every one of them. But if somebody, for example, is denied housing because of their ancestry or their religion, or if somebody is denied a service at a business because of their race, or they have because they have a disability, they can bring a claim to my office. I also oversee the failure to pay wages owed ordinance, which is essentially an anti-wage theft ordinance that prohibits employers operating within the city from not paying or compensating their employees for work completed. As with anything, any of these at the state or federal level, there's a statute of limitations. The wage theft has a 12-month statute of limitations. And it would follow this similar identical process to the Human Rights Ordinance, which is someone provides a written complaint to me. There's a form that's available online, or we can make a physical copy available for folks, or I can go help somebody complete a form, or in certain circumstances, I've accepted like an email that contains all the information that I would need. I need to receive it for 1 year within 1 year for housing discrimination, 6 months for employment, or 60 days for public accommodation. This is the information that the claim has to contain. Who are the folks that are alleged to have violated the ordinance? What happened? When did it happen? And that they have not filed a claim with any other agency.
Complaints are confidential or not?
Confidential to the extent that I can keep them confidential. Obviously, when I have to notify an employer or a property manager that a complaint's been filed, it can be pretty easy to figure out who filed the complaint. So in that sense, there might be a little bit of confidentiality that's compromised, but I don't have this information like publicly available for anyone to see, like what complaints were filed against who, and who filed the complaints, that type of thing. Roberto.
They are also subject to the Colorado Open Records Act without providing personal identifiable information.
I'm asking because probably somebody wants to make a complaint, but it's holding it because they don't want to everybody know that they did complain.
Yes.
Because of retaliation or.
Yep. And so in the ordinance, there is a prohibition on retaliation that is sort of baked into the administration and enforcement, I believe, part of the ordinance. So somebody cannot retaliate against somebody or take any action against somebody because they filed a complaint or are participating in the complaint process. Sometimes in practice, that's really hard to determine. And so, yes, people do make calculated decisions on whether or not to file a complaint.
Yeah.
All right, so once I receive the complaint, I'm gonna review the information in there, make sure that it does indeed fall within my jurisdiction, and if it does not, I'll try to get that person connected as best I can to the proper agency. And I am first tasked with trying to negotiate a settlement between the parties, which frequently happens just by referring to mediation. So we have a community mediation service. I would refer the complainant and the other names party in the complaint to mediation. And if that is practicable, if it's not, we'll skip this step, but where practicable, I will do that and they will attempt to resolve in mediation. So here is just some year over year totals. 2023, we had 63. These are inquiries, so people reaching out, and people who filed complaints. So these two things are combined. 2024, we had 45. And up until the 21st of November, we had 50. So we are probably going to land somewhere between 2024 and 2023. Outcomes. So we have completed, dismissed, and pending, and then referred. I would, in full transparency, switch pending to, these are cases that there may be lost contact, there's maybe not been follow through on part of the claimant, maybe they decided to withdraw the claim and just stop engaging with our office for whatever reason. This does not necessarily mean that there's still, like, I'm still investigating a claim from 2023.
So the total pending claims is the addition of the 23, 24, and 25 pendings. So we still have 8 pendings from 23?
No, so I would have just coded them differently. This table was made while I was out on parental leave, and so what I was saying there is I would have coded them as like no follow-up or something more along those lines. Those are not claims that are still in process.
That, if you think of it, 2023, it's like in the moment where we collected that data, it's a snapshot or a picture at a moment in time over kind of what was happening in that year. But if some of those were pending in 2023, that, yeah, like Christian said, it means different things, including there was some resolution of some kind in 2024. But just in that moment in time, that's kind of what came in and how staff kind of processed it, if that's
Doesn't mean that the 8 moved to 24.
not necessarily.
Gotcha.
No.
Gotcha, that was your question. No, this is just a snapshot in
I'm
time.
worried about you there.
Yeah, I know. This is like, I'm gonna just move this over here. I don't want
There
to
you
do
go.
that over it either. So yeah.
Okay.
So these are now year by year, according to the different areas. So we have wage theft up top, housing, employment and public accommodation, and then unknown or other, we yet, many times people reaching out about things that they don't know if it counts or we would have jurisdiction over, but they have a question or are trying to reach a different city office or anything like that.
Actually, do you mind going back? I just want to make sure everybody understands what public accommodation means. We went into detail with Roberto on this last year. Just checking.
Generally, yeah.
Briefly, it's a business that's operating within the city of Boulder. Okay, so these are the different protected classes that folks are naming in their complaints, 2023, 2024, and 2025, moving from left to right.
Immigration is different from national origin.
So immigration status,
Just
yes,
understand.
yeah. Whereas national origin would be,
Yeah.
so immigration status would be
Nationality.
somebody's immigration status in the country, national origin would be where they trace their roots to.
Source of income.
Like you can't discriminate just against someone for being a sex worker.
So source of income also, where it comes into play pretty often is a landlord not renting to somebody because of the type of, because of how they'll pay their rent. Frequently because they have government assistance and the landlord is opposed to government assistance, doesn't want to deal with whatever hoops they might have to jump through to get that assistance. So somebody with a Section 8 housing voucher, even though it is guaranteed money for the landlord, there's an inspection that needs to happen. There's a lot of paperwork that needs to happen and recertifications each year for the property. And so many times property managers or landlords, property owners do not necessarily want to deal with it. However, that is not a reason why they can deny somebody for housing. Okay. Question.
You okay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come on, baby.
Whoa.
It's your chair.
Wow.
That's a table. It looks like a chair.
I know.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
It was a graceful fall.
wasn't very graceful getting off.
That's a tough one to get out of.
I was curious that there was
Yep.
no political politics mentioned in the
Oh, like
recommendation.
Political affiliation.
Yes.
That is correct, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can you go back to that last slide?
Yeah.
Because sometimes that can be.
Yeah, it's totally a thing. Yeah.
Would that come into play anywhere else for any of the other like creep? That would not be.
Me saying that I am a part of a political party or doing something because I'm outwardly manifesting that I'm part of a political party is a constitutional position, so it's a First Amendment issue. So there are other methods by which that can be resolved. You know, I am walking down the street with my bring back Kamala t-shirt, and I walk into somewhere, which probably wouldn't happen in Boulder, but you know, they don't allow me to sit down and eat or whatever it is because of that. That is a First Amendment issue.
Hmm. Okay.
Cool. Wow.
I wonder if it would be helpful, Christian, sorry to put you on the spot, sorry, not sorry. There have been some changes over the last couple of years with respect to state discrimination laws, and I wonder if you can share what some of those conversations are like, or if when, because it is a when, the human rights ordinance is not kind of able to address the issue that some community members experiencing, kind of how you provide them with information for those other options.
Yeah. I'll try and let me know if I need to be more specific. But essentially
You can let Christian know if you need to be more. We will.
I think, so the ordinance was created in 1972 to provide more expansive protections to community members and were available at the federal and the state level, as well as faster response to discrimination complaints. At this point in time, I think the state and federal government have cover everything just about that. We also have names, if not potentially a little bit more in certain areas. And so they've caught up. And so at this point, in terms of protected classes in particular, I guess that would be what I have to say there. If now the ordinance itself, like the resolution process only permits me to like right or wrong is what I usually say, or correct a violation. I can't assess any damages or anything for somebody who has discriminated against someone else, or someone who has not paid their employee for work completed. However, at certain levels at the state, you can avail yourself of certain penalties if there is a finding that someone has, an employer has not paid their employee, or if a landlord has violated protection at the state level. There are, in certain circumstances, penalties that can be awarded to the person bringing the complaint. And so that, I would say, is where maybe we have fallen a little bit behind, because people, from my experience, people who are reaching out may want a little bit more than just like, hey, yeah, we made it, oops, and we won't do it again. There is, at least from my experience, a little bit more of an appetite for some punishment to be doled out, or some accountability to be had. And so that is a struggle, I would say. I encountered, I've encountered with previous complainants when I've done like follow-up surveys. And then it is a conversation that I have with complainants, or people reaching out around like, here's what I can realistically do. Here's what is available to you elsewhere. And that choice is yours if you want to file with our office or go to the state or something like that.
Could they do both? Or no?
I cannot investigate a complaint if there's a complaint with a different agency.
Oh,
already.
okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's one of the things.
I was in the bathroom for that slide.
Yeah, so that is the last bullet point on what the complaint
I see.
needs to contain is
Okay.
they haven't. Or that they withdraw. Okay. Yep. Any other questions about the ordinance, the complaint process? Anything that I've gone over? Okay. Cool. Anything to add from either of you?
I do not know when the last time that you sat in a quasi judicial.
Long time.
Okay. So I suggest that we don't get bogged down into it. If we get to a situation where one of Christian's claims gets appealed, we will hold a special training just for that, and I will do that. That's
The
it.
only thing I would add is not really more information about it, but, what staff have talked with HRC members about in the past, including last year, at the retreat is, my perspective is that it's really helpful for HRC members, for community organizations, just people to know, that this is, that the ordinance exists and that, Christian can kick me for saying this, just kidding. But we want people to be coming, right? Every year, our Housing and Human Services Department and all other departments in the city, we have our own outcomes and goals, why we're doing this work and what we hope will change in the community because of it. And we don't want to measure the impact of the ordinance by, oh, good, nobody's submitting any claims. That must mean everything's great
Yeah.
in Boulder. Nobody's experiencing any problems at all.
Right,
We know that's not the case.
right.
So when we think about outcomes and how do we know what we're doing in some way, an increase in people submitting claims, we don't assume that things are worse.
Yeah,
What we can hopefully gather is that people are experiencing what they believe is at least is some form of discrimination. And they are aware that they can do something about it, that they can reach out to the city government and see if there's something to do about it. That's where the change can happen.
Yeah.
And so to look at, our own outcomes in that way, it's critical that we have a process that is transparent and that is trusted, that people understand and they feel comfortable enough, at least to say, I'm not sure, but this is what happened to me. Is this something, what can you tell me? What are my options? What can we do? That's like really the most critical piece, because we wouldn't say like, oh, great, we're not getting any claims. That means everything's great. I would see that as, wow, we actually have a problem. We probably have a process that people don't trust, or nobody knows this is here.
It's either,
Right.
They don't know it, they don't trust it, but they just assume that's the status quo of things.
Exactly. Like, oh, I just need to deal with this.
Yeah.
Or they went to the state, right?
Or they went to the state, but yeah, I mean, any of those options, which is why, like the chart that Christian showed earlier, it's like, it's good information. It certainly doesn't tell the whole picture, right? It's just numbers. But if we were to see those numbers going down every year or going up, like we'd say, I wonder why that is. Again, like, what is the deal? Is there something happening throughout our community, or is there something that we're not doing as well as we should? Or collectively, are we not getting the word out enough or whatever? So I just wanted to say that because that is actually what we look at and how we talk every year about how are we doing? Here's an ordinance. Do people know about it? Are they using it? Do they trust it? And so if they reach out, and the ordinance doesn't cover that challenge, we can still say like, they were confident enough and comfortable enough to ask. And did we make an attempt, right? Whether it was doing whatever Christian Roberto can do to address a problem, or to say, we can't, but here's where else you can go. How else can we help? So those are the things that matter, as well as just what forms of discrimination, that sort of.
We feel limited in any way to solve complaints timely and efficiently.
Do I feel limited in being able to do that? I would say I have not had a volume that has been like unmanageable for me. Where I feel limited is my ability to, were I to have a situation where I'm trying to like, let me use an example. So I have a, if I have a failure to pay wages, civil wage theft complaint, and an employer just does not respond to me, and they, I have pretty good documentation from the employee that like, yep, there's a pattern of them being paid. They are not paid for these hours that they worked, and here's their timesheets, or here's them text exchange between them and the employer. Showing the employer, acknowledging them having completed work, but I can't get that employer to return my phone calls, to respond to my emails, or respond to certified mail that I send. I don't really have a lot else left in my arsenal to compel that person to like participate in my process. So I would say that is where I feel the limitation currently, and I think were there a little bit more oomph to the sort of process there, I may see more claims and they be like, hey, we could actually use some help. But at this point, I'm getting complaints and working on them. So I would say about 30 days or so, I could get it wrapped up, get something wrapped up for folks who do participate in like plans.
Very good.
Cool. Okay. This is the,
Move on.
are we ready to move on? We're
Bueno. Vamos a nuestro punto número 5, donde vamos a hablar sobre nuestro plan de trabajo para el próximo año. ¿Sí? Pero antes de hablar del plan de trabajo, tenemos que revisar algunas cosas de nuestro libro, nuestro handbook, y algunos elementos y formatos y ejemplos de cómo vamos a realizar nuestro plan de trabajo.
I'm all, yeah, I was also just going to, we've been meeting for about an hour. Folks, I've seen folks go back and forth as needed. Do we need a break, or are we good to keep going?
Right?
Nice 5-minute break.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, before we jump in.
Allá a la izquierda y para allá atrás hay unos baños.
For the end there.
Si lo quieres para mañana. No, es que son buenas. Oh, gracias.
Those are running
You know, less.
fast.
Did you grow up in Martin?
No,
Or did you just see something like Martin?
yes.
No, I go out there birding sometimes.
Oh, yeah, Bar Lake.
Yeah, Bar Lake and all, I do the Christmas bird count, just like north of there. So many interesting places.
Yeah.
And then I used to get like chili plants there. There used to be a lot more growers
Mm,
that
mhm,
like people that
mhm.
grew like, you know, tomato plants and chili
Right.
plants. There used to be, I think, flower growers and I know Suzette, I played with Suzette for a long
Mm,
time.
mhm,
recently.
mhm.
They did a play about it's like a strike in the
Oh,
40s or something. It was led by women.
interesting.
Latino
Uh-huh.
person. Yeah, I think before, like a lot of that went to Colombia.
Mhm.
But
Oh.
they used to, they were like carnation.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. I forget the name of the play.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Did I tell you that I did the skyline tours?
You did? Oh, you said you guys were going.
Yeah,
You did it? Yeah. How did you think?
it was so hard.
It is
It
difficult.
was so hard.
Yeah.
And we got lost a few times. So it turned out to be a full 20 miles.
Did
Across
you
the flag
like
mountain.
on Flagstaff?
I don't even remember what it was. But it
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. How
Yeah,
5 or
I
6
gotta-
had to get up. It was took us 8 hours.
I've done it a couple times. Yeah, trying to get it. Trying to figure out like where the actual summit of Flagstaff is. Like, so I just like go to where it's good one. Like, yeah, sounds good. And then that last descent of like Sidious too.
Oh, yeah.
That is such a
Although coming back down was pretty,
yeah.
because we went up one side and down.
Yeah. So you went up the like side through. Like
Like-
people's crossing and then like up.
Yeah.
So that like really steep one. Then he came down there really loose. Kind of like,
The goat trail or whatever.
oh
it's
god,
called.
that's all.
The goat trail.
I've
Yeah.
done that one. I used to live right over there, so I used to go up the
Yeah.
goat trail. I never went down it because it's like a knee killer.
And I'm an old man.
I would not have done that.
There were 5 of us.
Okay. I like to, would do that in the spring because, you know, there's a couple more like streams and stuff. You're, you have like a orchard or something, just to like.
Yeah, no, we certainly ran out of water. That was about to.
Did you go to Hungry Toad? That's like, it's the unofficial one.
No, I didn't know anything about that. Hungry Toad? What
It's
is
on,
that?
it's like a British bar on Broadway.
Yeah.
Right on Broadway now, and it's like. Probably half. From the goat trail where that dumps you.
Yeah, it's still, well.
That is. But you survived how much of a break did you take?
Around the next.
The next day,
The next.
right back at it.
Yeah. Because I'm in the process of doing 1,141 calls.
Ritos, Carlos.
Cerca de donde
So
tú
it's an average of
vives,
10 miles.
vivo
Is
allá
that
en
the-
las trajitas de la Ponderosa.
No, so it's
Los Flat Irons?
Okay.
right on.
¿Sabes dónde está la carnicería?
Ah, y ayer comimos ahí en Tibet.
Okay.
Ándale, atrás de las esas telas de atrás, ahí mismo.
Ah, bien. Y compramos, yo nunca había comprado ahí una cafetería.
Last week.
Compramos ahí
You
mesitas
guys were-
felices porque compraron negritos y compramos churrumais.
Ajá.
Oh, like.
Sí, creo que eso es
Yeah.
Tienen barbacoa. Muy bien.
También,
You usually have a few
no sé si ya
friends
sabes
too,
que
right?
trabajo en la tienda que está ahí en la Lapis Market.
Sometimes like some of my friends are
There's some
sometimes
fun.
like semi like transient, like they're like living employees sometimes they do it.
Trabajas
I've met
en la
anybody,
tienda
one friend who
de
just settled into a house.
supermercado.
First,
No
I'll
te
think about
visto.
it.
Yeah.
If somebody else is-
Yeah, let me know.
Trabajo por el departamento de productos.
Done 2 days ago.
Nosotros vamos ahí es donde compramos más tiempo y
Yeah.
Going fast.
donde
Yeah.
hay unos los
Yeah.
fines de semana, me encanta.
Yeah, got
En el café.
like one of my friends like a dog trainer, so a lot of dogs and
Comprarme un
everything.
pan ahí en
Usually
el
you have
bakery.
dogs stay with them, but sometimes you might go.
Yeah.
Ah, mira, para la próxima que vaya, voy
Yeah.
a buscarte.
Sometimes we'll-
Sí, comúnmente estoy en la
Yeah, if I
mañana.
can think of friends who are like,
Por eso no te he visto.
stay there.
En la mañana, otro a veces a las.
Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
O sea, son pues, todos
No.
los-
My housemates are like,
Yeah.
kind of good.
Entran a-
No, my housemate liked it, 'cause it was a trial run, cause I want to get my own dog. Next year, like next summer.
Porque eso ahora
And
llega.
then breed this German Shepherd. And get one of the pups. And so this was like a trial,
It's
like, okay, how do I feel
Well,
about the responsibility of being a dog owner?
Right.
But also, how do you feel about having a dog? And
Pues,
it
yo-
thumbs up all around.
yo vi la historia de
This
Rocky
was like the
porque
best
los
hobby
dueños
trial
tenían
run because it was like, it was a, yeah, just like a 5-year-old dog who's just like the most skilled dog ever. So it was like a very easy trial run.
De aquí.
Having a little German Shepherd puppy's gonna be.
A little different. A little different. You feel like, you said it was good.
Yeah, well, we're starting with, they're having a baby.
Pero
in
ese
January, so
café-
we're gonna have that little puppy for 6 months and then I'll do the dog into the equation and see where that goes.
If you want a different.
No, please take it.
Y lleva
Any-
mucho
any
tiempo
scene
trabajando ahí.
Dos.
Yeah.
Dos.
Not a chair. Are okay, but don't sit on anything. You want me to do this piece? Okay. For Aaron to come back.
Work plan. I did my homework. I read all the papers.
There we go.
Did you read the whole handbook?
I did.
Okay, what's on page?
Here's my pop quiz.
Failure.
Close the-
Got it here.
Handbook.
The handbook. That was a major accomplishment, speaking of work plan items. That was a work plan item.
What is it? The handbook?
I think the last time it had been revised was like 2020, maybe, does that seem right?
Some 2020.
There were not very many references to hybrid meetings, and so that tells us it's before COVID. Wow. Okay, so we wanted to share a little bit, like we talked about it for your October meeting, so your August meeting. That it is in every board and commission work plan or handbook or a set of expectations that every board or commission has a work plan. It doesn't have to be, big. It doesn't have to promise things that can't be accomplished, but something that will guide your work, right? Our departments in the city have work plans. Within our department, program teams have work plans. City council, kind of does its kind of multi-year retreats. And so this is just one of the things, right, that boards and commissions do. And this is the language that's actually in the handbook as kind of the elements of that process, which have to not just include here are the things that we're going to do, but what we talk about a lot kind of in our department and city is beginning with the end in mind. What is the change that you want to make? What is the purpose? Why are you doing this thing? What do you want to have result from it? What are those outcomes? And when do you want to do this? Does it matter? What kinds of resources might it take? To Jorge's question earlier about like, gosh, do we have a budget? What if we want to do something, right? Do we have money to do that with? The work plan is something that does have to have some staff collaboration. You have to create only items for a work plan that relate to your mission. And that if it requires assistance from staff, it has to be within the bounds of what we can reasonably support. If it becomes, is an idea for an activity that within any one period of time would require a lot more staff time than what we can give it, then we have to have a conversation about that, right? You don't tell staff what to do. You identify objectives, outcomes, activities, and then we'll help support you with that. So this is just just the basic description about what work plans are required. Most recently, Carlos can speak to this, in the last several years, kind of starting in 2023, when we were having staff and HRC members were having conversation about a work plan, we came up with, just suggested based on the kind of how the commission was structured at that time and what capacity was, of just having a spreadsheet, right, that identified, you can't really read it from here, but what is the work item, or what is the activity or issue area? What is the outcome? Like, why do you want to focus on that thing? Which commissioner is playing a lead role? Is there somebody who says, I'm going to take the next step on that, right? And if so, document that so you all know and acknowledge that. Is there a timeline? Does it have to happen any particular month or part of the year? And then what were some of those steps that were taken? And then staff before each meeting would just provide some basic updates, to the spreadsheet if HRC members requested it. Ideally, it's something that HRC members yourselves manage and maintain, but again, we're here to help. Further down in this document, there was also a list of programs that were sponsored by the city, right? Because the city was providing funding through the Human Relations Fund, for example. Or it was a key cultural celebration or an educational event that related to your work, that we would simply provide the dates and the times and the links so that you can act upon that. That came out of the conversation from maybe 3 years ago, among HRC members about wanting to have, that members would kind of sign up for, or assign yourselves, like, I'm gonna go to this festival, I'm gonna go to this community event, I'm gonna wear my badge, I'm gonna engage with people, right? That was part of the work plan. So, this is one way that a work plan can be constructed. It can also be a document, a shared document that just lists out again, whatever you want it to look like, we can help you support. This was just the most recent version. There were some challenges with that. Usually if it's a document that the city maintains, we can make that shareable for all of you, but sometimes somebody couldn't get access or would need the link sent to them again. So that's not a huge problem, but something you just might want to think about, considering how you want to use it, who's going to kind of take some responsibility to maintain that, how accessible do you need it to be, and what staff support would you need. And so these are just some kind of staff questions for you all to consider. We're happy to help provide some of that background information. I think, and Roberto can correct us if we're wrong, that in a retreat setting, you can kind of talk about a work plan items like to an extent, but not to the point where it would become a topic for what might be considered appropriate for a regular meeting. There may be a line in there somewhere. Go ahead.
As long as a decision is not made, a vote is not taken, then you're fine.
So we really, yeah, just wanted to make sure you have this. Sometimes when we would have the retreat over the summer in August, you think, well, we're kind of halfway through the year. Which year are we talking about? Sometimes there's not alignment with when commissions or boards are putting together a work plan. And then the city council might have a retreat that comes out much later and, you know, changes. So it's always best to have a work plan being, you know, kind of created on your best information, like what you know today and what you plan to do, with the ability to change it as needed to make sure that it's really relevant. But those are just, again, kind of basic guidelines for creating a work plan or a strategic plan for that matter. So here are just some questions that we wanted to put out to you and for you to talk about amongst yourselves, and we're here to help.
So once the year goes through, there's a review on how we deliver the work plan.
Ideally, yes. Yeah. I mean, what that looks like for city staff is that we're checking in. We're doing our day-to-day work, right? You're not staff members, you're commissioners, but you have your regular meeting times. You could decide that you want to spend time during your meetings, you know, talking about follow-up. That usually happens anyway, whether you're calling it work plan review or not. But at some point you take stock and say, well, what did we do? You know, we did that activity. How did it go? Did it have the outcome? Did it result in the change that we wanted? Yes, no. How would we do it differently? Is there something more?
But you build a work plan, of course, it's built around social needs and priorities that probably evolve through time. What are those social needs today? Or what are those priorities? You know, that can set the work plan for 26 for us.
So that could be a starting point.
To think, you know, where are we based on the achievements in 25? And then do we need to do something to achieve what we couldn't achieve in 25? And then just review what are those social needs and priorities that we need to work on 26.
You had linked the 24 to 25 work plan.
Or just to pull it up.
What was that?
Do you want me to pull it up?
Can you?
Mhm.
Thank you.
I think.
Is it pretty much that?
Yep.
So we did not actively go back to a work plan this last year during meetings. So that would be one thing to consider. Like just restructuring. I would say, but like more the way we were structuring was just using the agenda to guide our work and like track our work. But I can see the utility of a larger sense-making structure like this work plan from before Aaron and I joined.
So sorry if I'm blocking anybody, but yeah.
To kind of help re-anchor us to our priorities.
It's also just a way to, I mean, meeting minutes are necessary and they're helpful. And if you're tracking things, and whether it looks like a spreadsheet or another document, you're like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing. And without having to kind of go back, refer to other, you know, kind of versions.
Sift all the way through the.
Yeah, because we may use these to follow up on every meeting. And just identify which one is on track, which one is not on track. That actually can create the agenda for the meeting. All of it.
Do we want to use some of our time, as you said, Jorge, in this meeting to just draft what we feel like today are some priorities, and then, I know one of your questions, Elizabeth, was how do we use the meeting time and the time in between to draft a work plan? So that could be the start of one of the columns of the work plan. I don't remember what our timing was for, I know we still have our 3 buckets we wanted to go through, but would it be worth it to spend like 10 minutes on that, or what do you all think?
I think that could be good, like. I mean, I love the idea of in whatever format, kind of just like giving some space for each of us to just kind of like name, we could like kind of start with like, what are the things that are really important to us? Just kind of like start, like find some kind of like themes of like, what are the things we're looking at that we think is important in this work? And just maybe start there and find the core themes, and then like distill that into a little bit more of like the structure of this. But I suspect some way of having just some open discussion for us to kind of like name what feels important for us. I think that might be one shape.
Yeah, do folks feel like you're ready to talk about what's important to you, or would it be helpful to have some?
You're saying yeah, just like taking like 5 or 10 minutes, take some like personal journaling time.
Maybe 2 minutes.
Minutes? Yeah. Okay, I heard you say 10 minutes. I think.
Oh, for the whole, yeah,
Oh,
so
cool.
focus for the whole.
Yeah,
thing.
so like 2 minutes to just try and jot some things down. I think that's a great idea.
Does that work for you too, or do you
I mean,
feel
for
like
me,
ready to go?
It's more useful to listen to you.
Yeah.
Being new and
Yeah.
to the city, get to know what's being priorities before and now. And then I can just add what I.
Yeah, I like that.
It might be helpful for the 3, Carlos, Emily, and Aaron, to just think about what has been human trafficking, difficult dialogues. There are things that are already were in play or are, but you don't, it's not leaving any of that behind. It's just making sure you're capturing that and anything else, right? In a format that enables, that has a clear purpose, outcome that you can really track over time.
Yeah, so I guess I can start by naming some of what I'm tracking that feels important to me, and then kind of like flow through there.
I'll take some.
Yeah, take some notes. Yeah.
Peers for peers.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the things. One of the
And I'm
convers-
taking notes, by the way. I'm not
Yeah.
playing Sudoku.
Bummer. Uh-huh. Some online chess going. My addiction. Yeah, I mean, for me, like difficult dialogues is one of the things we did last year that felt really valuable, even if like didn't quite materialize yet. It's like there was like some conversation around that felt really interesting. Yeah, I mean, what I care about from a human relations thing is like, how are we building more bridges in our community? How are we building bridges between people who think differently? But also how are we building bridges like between like levels, such as like, so that people feel like they can access people in government, so that they feel like they can access people in business. Like there's a lot of like different arenas that I think people are playing in, and like the thing that's really interesting to me is how do we build more bridges so that people feel more access to like actually engage in our community in a more full-hearted way. That continues to be the thing that's the biggest motivator for me, and something I think we started to touch on in difficult dialogue, but I'm really curious how we can find other avenues into that. Yeah.
Yeah, just real quick, like summarize what we were doing with difficult dialogues because Jorge
Yeah.
has not been a part of this.
So difficult dialogues is a thing that happens at CU, And we were having conversations about how do we address when tension arises in our community? It was especially relevant with like a lot of tensions around Israel, Palestine in that conversation, and how it was bubbling up at the city council and open comment. And this just became a thing that we were like looking, and there was at least one person who was regularly coming to open comment to talking to us about that. And so we were just kind of looking at what to do there. And that led us to having a conversation with Dr. Jennifer Ho at CU, who's the director of the Center for Humanities and Arts, who runs a thing called Difficult Dialogues, where they kind of like bring some of these conversations and have a little group of people to like look at them. And then she also introduced us to a game called the Interview Game that a few of us like got an experience in, of like a game where it's like you get to kind of be interviewed about different perspectives, and it's a way of like helping people understand each other's perspectives.
Like
And
tolerance,
What?
around tolerance.
A little bit. It's like just like understanding each other. So it's like helping somebody who has a pro-Palestine perspective understand more of somebody who has a pro-Israel perspective, and like vice versa, helping kind of understand each other's worldviews. And so it was this game called the Interview Game where we went through that. And that was with that, she introduced us to this guy, Ami Dial, who put on the conversation piece. We talked about that briefly at our opening thing. Mindy was involved in that thing called The Conversation that they hosted at JCC. And so we built some relations there, and still to be seen what might happen in that partnership. But that was a little bit of what was unfolding in that conversation. And yeah, just to speak a little what's been happening and also where my heart is in that. Yeah.
So maybe, like building bridges could be like a larger category of priority, and then your difficult dialogues project could be under that. Is that fair? Cause it sounded like there was more.
Yeah.
To your
Yeah.
priority than just the difficult
Yeah.
dialogues.
Yeah, building bridges is like a much more full thing, and difficult dialects is one way that's manifesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carlos or Jorge, anything else with building bridges that sparks for you?
It's got to do with my comments around awareness. So how do we build that awareness, communication, and letting know the community, letting know the community that we're here, what do we do? How can we help? And the awareness can be a lot of things, you know, it's either go visit the community or just do publicity or participate in events and have a stand, or, you know, can be multiple things. But it's more about awareness and publicity of HRC.
Yeah. And then, something I'm thinking about as you're speaking is that awareness can go, like, can be bi-directional, that like, as we're talking to people about HRC, we're also learning, like, oh, what, now that you know what HRC does, what are some of your top priorities for our community, so that we're building more of like a feedback loop within our commission.
Yep.
So I'll just put awareness of HRC and then awareness of community priorities. Rose, anything come you? Building bridges or?
Algo que olvidé mencionarles y tienen que está en nuestro handbook, es de que nosotros podemos estar en eventos e ir a las comunidades, pero no podemos presentarnos abiertamente como comisionados en un evento si no tenemos el permiso de la comisión. Entonces, si vamos a un evento, nada más vamos, yo voy como Carlos, no voy como comisionado. Eso también lo tenemos que tener en cuenta.
Cuando tienes la aprobación de la comisión, ¿qué puedes hacer?
Cuando tienes la aprobación de la comisión, entonces sí, soy comisionado, vengo a ver qué es lo que ustedes necesitan, qué es lo que quieren, qué es lo que se requiere aquí. Sí.
I think, Roberto, this might be something for you to help with. You can go to an event and as a representative of the commission, and you can say, I am on the Human Relations Commission. You don't have to like keep that part secret, or just like conceal that. What I think you need, and correct me if I'm wrong, Roberto, what you would need approval of the commission to do would be to speak on behalf of the commission.
Mhm.
Or say, like, that is something that we will take up, and like work on. You can identify yourself as a commissioner and say like, yes, I'm on this commission. And I hear that this is a important topic or a need or something. I can bring this to the commission to discuss, or invite said people to even better, make public comment at the commission. And that much you could do without, asking like the group for a vote.
Obviamente sí,
Yeah.
sí.
We get this a lot at city council. A member of a board, a committee, a commission shows up for public comment and says, I am Roberto Ramirez. I am on the HRC, but this evening I'm speaking in a personal capacity. I do not speak on behalf of the entire HRC. This is my agenda.
Sí.
But if I go to an event and I want to distribute flyers about it, I can do that.
Yes.
Because we would all see the flyers that you're distributing. Wouldn't be just like one of us making rogue flyers. Distributing them.
Exactly.
And I think as long as you map the events in the work plan, then we can anticipate and just give the authorization to formally represent the HRC.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. Okay, I'm looking at the time, so. So I think we have some really great ideas for building bridges. And we don't have to get into as nuanced of a description for other ones, but are there other priority issues you all want to surface right now? Or it could be hashtag building bridges here.
Yes, since the last meeting, I was thinking that, we promote all the things, the values and, what we want to do. But probably it's good to recognize the community and the businesses of aligning to the values, right? And create, the HRC awards, and then you just recognize people in the community, established businesses or companies, right? That becomes aspirational as well. The community and the business community. Right? So I bet you that, if a restaurant can put a seal on the front saying, I got an award because of, equity and blah, blah, blah. Boom. That creates awareness.
I love that incentivizing human relations excellence. I want to put on here, I've been very loosely keeping track of the Central Park planning and have read some commentary that some of our unhoused neighbors are concerned they're gonna be pushed out of that common area with the plans, the city plans. So I want to put on here something like, supporting supporting, I don't know, land use or unhoused people, I don't know. Especially because it's a city project, I just think maybe there's potential for us to actually do something, but I like generally supporting people who are unhoused is priority for me, but this is like a specific city. People who are unhoused census, so.
Unhoused means homeless.
I would just put an asterisk there and we can again support the conversation how in whatever ways are helpful. If they're in situations where there is a city department that might have its own board or commission. That is already kind of taking the lead role on that particular issue, right? If it was a parks issue or an open space issue or a community vitality issue, we might say, well, there's a board for that, just like there's a human relations commission. There's a board that advises that department that's making that plan. How might there be a way for you to connect together so that you're not duplicating unintentionally or providing information in a forum that people are not asking you to do? And I don't have a better way of saying that, but Carlos, remember, we talked about that in the past, like we want all of our boards and commissions to be able to do your good work, aware of what other boards and commissions are also doing. And so that just might be one of those areas where if they're, their existing community engagement or whenever, not necessarily for that issue, but any issue where there's the board or commission, a panel, a committee, some other process in place, we'll be sure to make sure you're aware of that and can connect those dots to avoid duplication.
That'd be great, and to have them come present.
Many things could happen.
Okay, how about a few more other priorities?
Have you seen the work done last year?
Yeah, 2 years ago now. This is a couple of years. Many of these issues were left from 2013, 2013, sorry, 23.
Boulder Junction phase 2 working.
So for example, that Boulder Junction phase 2, Carlos might remember this. That was there was another city department, or is, that was taking the lead on redesigning Boulder Junction, that part, that neighborhood of the city. And it wasn't city council that requested it necessarily, but another city department that said, actually, we would like the HRC to review this plan and give us some comments about it. So that was a situation where the HRC didn't say, we want to weigh in on Boulder Junction, but you were asked to do that. And so there were some presentations, lots of pages of documents, kind of review that focus specifically on enabling and asking the HRC to weigh in specifically with perspectives for people that might have challenges, right? Or different populations in need, right? Or that might not, whose opinions or experiences it really wanted to understand. So that could happen too, right? It could come from city council, it might come from another city department. That's how something gets on the work plan.
I mean, this is a pretty good start. How do you all feel about someone taking the lead to format this in,
Shall we, sorry to interrupt, include, the engagement with the city council as a priority as well?
we could,
So enhance and increase in our communication and collaboration with city council. Because then you promote the connection with the community, but if that doesn't flow with the city council, then we're gonna be stuck.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what we wanna do. Cause we don't have to go through city council for all of our actions.
But you want to make them aware, maybe?
Yeah, I think the building bridge and the increasing awareness piece. So it's just like, let people inform people that like it's possible to connect it. Like I think a lot of this is, yeah, it's like most people just have this idea of government, the city council, the staff, everything, and it's like thing way up there that there's no possible way for them to connect to. And so I think creating some awareness that there's like ways, there's bridges through which they can get engaged with like the city. Yeah, I think helping that awareness is a really good thing. Yeah, and I do think part of that is our relationship with the council.
And that's it.
Awesome. How do we wanna proceed with this?
So how detailed we need to elaborate these today?
Well, I'm proposing that we move on because we still have a lot to go through. We only have an hour left. But how do we want to get from here to potentially something more like that?
So like what formats, it doesn't have, a work plan does not have to look exactly like this. We can certainly use the spreadsheet as a template. It can take a different form if somebody or somebody's would like to, of course, work on this between like tonight and next meeting, or tonight and a future meeting to put together and review or adoption as a group. And then we're available as well to, I'm available as well to support with that. So I think what Emily's trying to do is sort of put those next steps together here. Now, so we need some folks to step up to volunteer to do that.
I'm happy to, volunteer for the awareness piece as well.
So it's like the big categories here. It's like the building bridges, there's the awareness, like the recognition, recognizing it's like something about lifting up good in community.
So probably recognition goes below awareness as well.
Yeah, totally.
I think whoever decides to take the lead on this can rearrange it into categories. Does anyone feel open to using the notes we've taken to take it into a different form for our next meeting?
Take photos in the house.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand quite exactly what needs done, what the ask is.
I think we need to organize the information that we just brainstormed here.
Yeah.
So that we have a work plan to review and adopt moving into next year.
Gotcha.
And so it could be something
Yeah,
that looked like that, but it could also be a different format.
yeah, I mean, I can try and put something together, try and organize in a few ways, bring it back,
Thank you.
yeah.
I bet
For better, the-
ChatGPT can help a lot.
Oh, yeah,
ChatGPT
that's the
is
plan.
gonna-
Yeah, believe me.
También cada uno de nosotros podemos pensar cómo organizarlo y traerlo para la siguiente reunión y tomar algo de cada quien.
But just to say the way, for better or worse, I've taken notes is that building bridges is defined as an objective, provide opportunities to build bridges among community members. An activity, or however you want to describe the activity, what are you doing with difficult dialogues? Are you going to promote? Are you going to attend yourselves? Are you going to continue the idea of actually getting trained? You know, what's the thing that you're gonna be spending time doing? The outcome. And this is draft, but just how we would suggest structure, how we suggest our work, structure our work plans. The outcome is that people in our community with different opinions have whatever, productive ways, right, to understand each other. If and enabling better awareness of the HRC and community priorities and objective, the activity is we're gonna go to events. Which ones? How many? When are they? Who's gonna sign up? Those are all of the other elements. The outcome is what? Like define the outcome. What is the change that you wanna have happen as a result of going to community events and doing tabling and events? If that's what you decide to do. So structuring in that way takes what you've talked about, but it puts it into a format that clarifies, we're not just gonna do a bunch of things and then say, wasn't that fun? It's like, we did these things because we wanted to achieve something. Did anything change as a result of that? Yes or no? It's like, and enables you to say, who's gonna take the lead? Who's gonna do the next thing? What support do you need from staff? If you decide you want a table at 5 events this year, then what information, what do you need from staff, right? Print flyers. Reserve a spot, like whatever. It'd be those sorts of things, but then it's all in one place.
So it seems like increasing community awareness is a huge objective, and that's like increasing community awareness of city, increasing community awareness of like things that are happening, increasing community awareness seems like kind of one of our big objectives. Yeah. Like, and then I'm hearing like building bridges to like create more connection in our community. Like those are two big objectives that I'm tracking from this. And I'm curious if other people are tracking other ones that I'm not naming there.
I mean, the unhoused population one seems very separate from that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's like a core objective that you see there. I mean, I guess that might just be like supporting marginalized communities.
I would say, yeah, specifically supporting unhoused communities.
Yeah, but I was saying like, I think in general, supporting marginalized communities is a thing that we're probably up to, and that would probably fit in it. I'm like trying to create some
That is,
core.
I feel like that's too big of a objective, because that's what our whole, like, that's more our whole purpose is supporting marginalized communities.
I mean, maybe. I think a lot of the building bridges and the supporting community awareness is for a lot of communities, not just marginalized communities. Because I'm just like trying to like dial it down to a few core ones.
I think we need to dial it down. I'm feeling like we need to move on, but
You think so?
maybe, but I also want you to feel equipped to move forward. I don't think it's vital that we have, for example, like every objective dialed in for this next meeting. I appreciate your wanting to have it more specific.
Yeah, I'm just like trying to think about how we're organizing this. And I'm not seeing it named on here, but I see a lot of things that we're trying to do that are about supporting marginalized communities.
Mm.
And so I was just like wondering if like we wanted to like name that. Because like to me, if we can kind of like outline a few core things that we're up to, then it's easier to fit it into other things. And so it's not like trying to like dial back, but it's like trying to paint a bigger picture of kind of what we're up to that's going to help focus our effort in the year to come. And so like it seems like supporting marginalized communities is a big thing that we're trying to do here, right? Yeah. And that includes what you're doing there. And so it's almost like kind of pointing out that there's this objective of supporting marginalized communities in Boulder, increasing community awareness and building bridges. And I'm just like trying to get a sense if like those three categories feel like three of the core things that include everything that we want to be up to on this commission.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
Cool. Cool. And then, yeah, I like that. It's like being able to kind of paint those as core objectives. Then it's easier to kind of figure out where the different activities are. And I think we've listed a number of activities we can engage in.
I see them more as the big rocks that naturally will translate into goals and actions.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what we want to achieve, how does success looks, by working on awareness or building bridges and, all the big rocks.
Yeah.
And then you just work on a lower level of detail,
Mhm.
what we want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for that synthesis, Aaron.
Una prioridad que tenemos para que vayan pensándola para la siguiente reunión también es nombrar a nuestro presidente y el vicepresidente.
At a regular meeting, can't do that.
Yeah,
at a retreat.
yeah, for the next meeting.
The chair.
Huh?
The chair.
Yeah.
First.
For the retreat notes, do I understand, Aaron, you're gonna take a
I'll
shot at?
I'll take a shot at kind of turning that into some work plan. Just bring it through in a few different shapes that we can talk about next meeting. Have something a little more structured.
To let Christian know if somebody will want a template or anything.
Totally.
That's what we look like.
You look like high school study hall. Or you were a substitute teacher, Christian.
There you go. I in a previous life I was a teacher.
Oh, nice.
All right, so are we ready to move on to the next one? Okay. Nope.
There wasn't any other slide, but you wanna go back to that. Agenda?
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, so I think we were each gonna take one of the points, right? For efficiency, meeting structure, and commissioner, community relations. Okay. So I think our last conversation, I was gonna take point on the first one. I think our last conversation flows nicely into this conversation, which is about how do we know if our work is effective? So we've just started to outline, we could get more specific with this conversation. We could remain more idealistic or visionary. Do you all want to kind of spell out what success would look like for some of our potential activities? Do you want to go vision? What are y'all feeling for what I think will need to be a fairly short conversation on efficacy?
just to be clear on time, because we have until 8. Is there more stuff after part 4 that we're getting to?
No.
Okay.
Just, yeah, just to make sure you two have time for your pieces.
And there will, yes,
Oh, and because we're gonna go back to the letter.
there is, yeah, I was just gonna say, the vote on,
Yeah.
if you all want to present a letter to council.
Great. Okay. Okay, cool. So essentially 10 to 15 minutes for each of these sections. Okay, great.
I think you can define the overall ambition with that. And then I'm very pragmatic. Every meeting, we should just go through the actions. Did we do the action? Didn't we? We didn't do it or not. And then are we on track or not? And be very pragmatic on, and then just take actions if we're late or, we need resources or decisions. As you help us, detailing it more, then we can be more objective. Or objectively defining those goals and actions. But at the end of the day, for me, when you say building bridges is improving our role of connecting with the community and listening to the community and the city council, right? So that's the whole thing. We want to build those bridges and we want to create awareness so the community can help us build those bridges at the same time, right? Or reinforce those bridges.
What are some ways that you could tell that you were building those bridges or enhancing that connection with city council?
For example, I was typing ideas here. What if you build an app, right? As you build awareness, you create a tool that facilitates communication, on complaining or, needs. And then you just can go with this. Just as a simple example, right?
What's the app the city uses? Listen Boulder or something?
Be heard.
Be heard Boulder. Be heard Boulder. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So would the metric there be increased use of city services?
For me, the metric would be executing the tool. Okay, we wanted to implement the tool. We did it. That's the deliverable.
I thought we were building bridges though.
Yeah, and then that will help you reinforce the bridge.
I think what Emily's pointing at here is perhaps trying to find a kind of metric. If the tool is in service of building bridges, trying to get a sense of what does success look like in terms of the bridges built.
It's finding a KPI, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you measure it in terms of, contacts or number of communications that we receive. And, I think, if you start measuring that objectively, you will use 26 to create a baseline because today we don't have baseline.
Yeah.
You don't know if 10 is good or 10,000 is good or not.
Yeah. But I think in general, success would look like, even if it's hard to kind of go to the quantitative metrics, success would definitely look like more people in Boulder feeling more connected to their community.
That's another good idea. Why did you do a survey? Right. And you set the baselines, you create a survey, you go out and ask the community to tell us what they think. And then after we do all we want to do in 26, probably early 27, you do the survey again and people will tell you, yes, I feel more connected. I feel, we're improving. It's very difficult when it's about social things to create very hard KPIs, right? It's more like an opinion.
I agree. Yeah, it felt sense. So it almost seems like a measure of success for us would be understanding where we're at right now with people's sentiments around feeling connected to different experiences.
So this is what I was saying, probably not hearing from the community may be perceived as good, but we know what's not good, no.
So maybe part of this is like, if we kind of have things that we're shooting for, like we want community to feel more connected, we want people to be aware of what's happening, we want people to feel supported, it's like, if we're kind of like holding all of those are like North Star, and then part of maybe our meeting is like tweaking the meeting structure a little bit, is like kind of doing some collective sense making. It's like, what are the communities that each of us is connected to? And what's our sense about what's going well there? How much are people aware of like what's happening in the city? How much are people aware of their neighbors? It's like, so perhaps there's like some regular thing that we're returning to of doing a collective sense making, and there's probably a little like qualitative warm data. And then like, if we kind of have that, then we have this feedback cycle so that we have a sense.
Be cool to do an actual survey.
Yeah, survey. I think a survey would be great.
So that we
Yeah.
had some data.
Yeah.
Has HRC ever done?
Yeah, cities does a lot of surveys.
Do they ask questions about belonging and stuff? So,
And the trends.
so it'd be easy for us to ask
So we can
for that data.
yeah, we can totally look at that data and be bring that into our sense making.
When was the latest?
That's a great question. Do you remember?
What's there?
The community, it's a big community survey. City will let you know, honestly. I just. Do you remember, Roberto, the last time the city did the big? Like once every 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I was almost saying like 2020.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
A great start point.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
And if there's like things in that survey things that survey is missing, that's one of the things that we can communicate to the council, be like, hey, we think that you should be tracking these metrics or these metrics. So we can see where the data works and where.
We would want to communicate it to whoever's putting out the survey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Would be interested to know as well what was done with that information at that point.
Totally.
It largely, I mean, it informs the city as a whole, that work rests within the city's communications and engagement department, who are responsible for those activities, right? And many more, but it's
Yeah.
assessment of like, what do we know from how people responded to these questions over the last.
It would be very interesting because Boulder is a very diverse city. A bunch of students, you know, Hispanic community, you know,
Tech bros.
everybody may
Got all the Naropa spirit to
have
people.
different needs, right? So it would be very interesting to see.
Do you know, Elizabeth or Christian, off the top of your head, if the survey has questions on like priorities for the city to address? Issues for the city to address that would also be super helpful.
I don't think, I have to go, let's back and look at it. I believe that's different. Like right now, the city is doing its comprehensive plan process, right? Which is a once every, you know, so many years process that's very expansive. It's about identifying broad priorities, including land use and otherwise. And there are other engagement processes, again, some of which take place in terms of a board or commission, kind of the first stop responsibility of like the Parks and Rec Advisory Board or, you know, pick the board or commission. We have committees within our department that include like an older adult services advisory committee, funding advisory, et cetera. So it's a culmination of lots of those kinds of instances, and then other initiatives that are quite specifically kind of managed for the communications and engagement about minimum wage. How bright should the traffic lights be? Vision Zero transportation for, you know, all the things. So a lot of that work kind of gets coordinated from the communications engagement team. And yeah, it would be not a challenge at all if you wanted at a meeting, right, to provide the information, survey information to you.
Be great.
can, yeah. Again, like strategically tap in, right, without creating unintentionally a duplicative process.
Mhm. Cause I guess one unanswered question for me is how we're defining our efficacy in terms of being responsive to Boulder's many communities. Like, I feel like us as commissioners, we've all shown up in good faith to be supportive community members and commissioners, and we've gotten a few requests from community members. By and large, though, it's been self-generating. So I would like to, I feel curious about how we could define success in terms of how aware people are of the commission, but also how aware we are of community priorities.
I think that's key.
I don't really have a good answer. Wish I had a better answer.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's just gonna be like really good for us to have conversations and make sense of things, but also for us to like really like hold the responsibility of like being out there in the community. And like having good processes for how we bring that back to each other. Like I'm in the community a lot, but like I know I can do a better job of like bringing the perspectives I hold like back into this meeting. And so I think like having some good processes around that like supports all of us bringing the perspectives we're holding in here.
Is there any last things we want to say about this? Because again, I don't want to short the rest of y'all's.
No, feels good.
We generated a few cool ideas.
Yeah, cute. That's good. I think we're finding something.
Okay, Erin.
Am I signed up for the meeting structure one?
Yep.
Great, okay. I mean, I think I've already like kind of like named it a little bit, but like I'm really interested in us like finding more effective ways to use this time. I feel like we have these 2 hours a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we not just talk about the Human Relations Commission, but how are we embodying human relating here? And so I'm just like, would be really curious. I think in that last conversation, we tossed out a few of these ideas around meeting structure, but I'm just like curious what people think about like what we're enjoying from these meetings, maybe what's not working well, and any ideas that people are having around it. Or just around meetings in general, like things that y'all have experienced that like that makes for a really good meeting and that makes for a less good meeting. So just be curious what people think on that.
Carlos, you've been our fearless meeting leader. I'm curious what your comments are.
Yo siento que hemos tenido una secuencia de reuniones buenas, pero yo siento que todavía falta agregar algo. Sí. No sé, antes de que yo tomara este liderazgo, había una muchacha, Lindsay. Ella tenía una manera de dirigir las reuniones. No sé, se sentía que estábamos a gusto. Teníamos todo a la mano. Y pues cuando yo tomé el liderazgo, porque no había nadie más, ¿verdad? Entonces, yo siento que he llevado las reuniones bien, pero siento que falta. No sé qué opinan ustedes.
I'm curious from your experience with this other person, what do you think supported you feeling so happy while you were in the meeting?
Es que lo hacía de una forma que que te llevaba como
Which
de
is
la
like,
mano en la
like
reunión.
taking you by the hand in the meeting.
Entonces,
And so,
y lo explicaba de
and
una forma en
she would
que
explain it in a
no
way that
entendías.
everybody understood.
So one thing is the how,
Una cosa
but the
es
other thing is the what.
cómo y
Right.
otra cosa es
Ujú.
qué.
So how do we
¿Verdad?
make
¿Cómo
the meetings, but
podemos
what do we
hacerlo?
want to accomplish
¿Qué
in
es lo que
each meeting?
queremos lograr?
I think it's also very important. Can be formative, but also a decision-making and actionable meeting.
Unas decisiones.
Keep track on
Secciones
the
y
work plan,
hacíamos un plan de
take the decisions to align or realign things.
hacer las cosas.
Highlight, any needs or resources needed,
O las
that kind of things that I think we will have in the meetings to be productive. Because, I've seen many times, meetings are informational, everybody goes back home, and then 2 months later, nothing's changed. Right? If we can make them productive, actionable, and informational, we will, be successful at the end of the year, achieving what we want to.
Yeah.
And probably I was thinking, it's good that we're prioritizing, but make sure that we focus on a few very important things, because if we try to do a lot,
Yeah.
then it uses track of
Yes.
things. Just, 2, 3 things, this is what we want to do. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Making sure we have like the clear objectives and like a few clear action items, and then making sure that our meetings are in service of us making sure that we're acting on those.
Asegurando que estamos actuando.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if like there's an action step of like trying to solidify something about like what a different meeting structure might be like. I'm curious if you want to like play a role in that. It seems like you know a thing or two about like running things. I think you rep businesses, and so like
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, my life is about things.
Yeah, and so maybe you and one other, I'd be happy to, or another. It's like maybe there's some way that we can like experiment with some new meeting structures. Yeah.
So in the handbook, it says that we should leave space for public hearings. Is that happening? That's happening? We're fighting.
Yeah, there's open comment, not today because of retreat, but in general, we will sometimes have one person, usually not more than that.
Okay. That happens just proactively from people in the community, or do we invite people?
I think Carlos has invited people sometimes to speak. Yeah. So sometimes proactive. I think Carlos is the only one of us who's proactively invited people, but that is definitely a thing that we could do more of. Yeah.
I would just toss in here, there are again in your handbook, there are some things about a meeting that you actually can't change.
Yep.
In terms of just the structure of an agenda, but an action item or a discussion item can also be a presentation, a panel. It can be public. You've decided to have some of your meetings dedicated, your monthly meetings dedicated to an open meeting, like on human trafficking, right? There have been meetings in the past with HRC where you've invited organizations, other staff members to come and present to inform you. You might consider, is it just for your information, or is it your intention to actually bring other community members' attention?
Yep.
So they're hearing what you're hearing. So it's not, and that's again, we would talk about that previously, right? Is this so that you're informed only, or is it for the community to be informed? So there are all sorts of ways that you can spend your time at meetings that are, it's less about like, what does the agenda actually look like, to, is it for you, your time, or is it to engage with the, or are you choosing to spend your time in a month going elsewhere. Any of those is awesome. But yeah, we can advise on like what has to be the case. All of that matters on how Christian has to provide the public notice for the meeting.
Yep.
So,
And can you track how many people view our recording?
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Okay. I mean, I doubt many people are watching it now, but that would be one way we could track.
You would be surprised. It's not like,
It's not zero.
it's not zero, yeah, it's not like we're getting, like
200, yes.
people looking to advertise on our meetings or anything like that, but there are definitely folks tuning in. So
I am
It's just-
surprised.
it's just quite kind of interesting. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Anybody have anything more they wanna share on meeting structure?
No.
I guess question, it has to be the chair or the co-chair who facilitates the meeting. Okay. So I just feel like a shared.
I was thinking the same thing, it was like, rotate.
One at a time, please.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So I was just gonna say, I mean, the chair facilitates the meeting, but if you talk with each other before one-on-one, right, one-on-one, no violating the sunshine laws, but if Carlos comes to Christian and says, okay, for our next agenda, Emily's gonna facilitate this agenda item, and Aaron is gonna facilitate this, like, that's fine. The chair is responsible overall for calling meeting to order.
Pretty much like how it's happening right now. With each of you having a different bullet point here, and Carlos just kind of like running the, yes, as the MC.
But the commission only communicates via email today. We don't have like chat.
Sunshine law, we're not allowed to have,
We're not allowed to have that.
no.
Just
And-
formally.
and I think even, we can't even have like a publicly visible email that we communicate with, like the hotline, because the hotline, they're not actually discussing, they're only discussing with city staff. Okay.
Yep. And if there's a shared document, like if you have a document of the work plan, you actually can't all be in the document making edits and doing things at the same
Yeah.
time.
And are you aware, I think like other places, I know at least Texas and others had a sunshine law, but then they added a clause in maybe 10 years ago that allowed for asynchronous, publicly visible communication. Do you know anything about that? Okay, cool.
Okay.
Moving on.
So,
Yes, so not yet. I'm gonna try and bug some state senators and Congress people to add that clause in for us.
but Carlos could reach out, or, one-on-one communication is fine. Just can't all be doing
Gonna
the
just
doing the
discuss
work
things
between
or-
the meetings, yeah.
También para la estructura
The structure
de una reunión,
of the meeting.
ustedes
You all
pueden
could
mandarme un email a mí o a Cristian con un tema que ustedes quieran ver o algo que quieran que se quiera que se discuta en la reunión.
discuss on it.
And oftentimes you'll decide in a meeting, let's do blah, blah, blah at the next day. That's perfectly appropriate. You talk about it during meeting.
Right.
You're all set.
That feels good for meeting structure. Figure out more specifics, but I think there's like enough coherence there that we can. And the synthesis for me is like that I think we're just gonna be a little more experimental in how we do meeting structure. It sounds like we're all gonna bring a little bit more agency into that, which I think is great. Cool. to you, Carlos.
Aquí tienes, ¿tienes el cover?
No, pues
No, nothing to say.
está bien.
It's all okay.
Okay,
Bueno,
anything else about the structure? No? Okay. So I'm going to, les voy a hablar
we'll
sobre
talk about.
mm,
Mm.
liderazgo, un poco de liderazgo. Me gusta la segunda pregunta para irnos más rápido. Dice, what are some norms we'd like to incorporate into how we interact with each other? Aquí, hay una persona
There's a person
que siempre me menciona
always,
que hay que irnos a lo básico.
we just,
Sí.
we have to go to the base.
Entonces,
So
¿cómo interactuar
how to
unos con otros?
with each other,
¿Sí? Como características de un líder,
the characteristics of a leader.
primero tenemos que inspirar
We
confianza.
have to inspire trust.
Tenemos que saber escuchar,
Know how to listen.
tener visión de lo que queremos,
Vision of what we
tener conocimiento, humildad y carácter.
humility and character.
Sabernos comunicar
Know
unos
how to
con otros.
communicate with each other.
Aquí me gusta esto porque
I like this because
tenemos que aprender a
we have to
controlar
learn how to
emociones,
control our
¿sí?
emotions.
Para tratar con la gente o para tratarnos unos con otros, a veces nos exaltamos, pero tenemos que aprender a controlar
We're excited, but we have to
nuestras
learn how to
emociones.
control our emotions.
Y también
And also,
hay que ser leales
we have to be
unos
faithful
con otros, ¿sí?
with each other.
¿Por
With
qué?
each other. Why? Because
Porque hay cosas
there
que
are
como líderes
things that
no
as
debemos
leaders
hacer,
shouldn't do.
al menos es lo que yo
At
creo.
least that's why.
Como puede, ¿qué es lo que no debemos
Like
hacer?
what
Es
should be done?
criticar,
I criticize.
¿sí? A veces,
Sometimes
aunque nos caiga mal,
even
no hay
if
que criticar a la
something
gente.
like something,
No sé,
I don't know.
porque dicen que si
Because
criticamos a
say
los demás como si estuviéramos
others
criticándonos
like
a nosotros mismos,
else,
¿sí?
right?
No envidiar,
And not having jealous.
no malinformar,
And not missing.
porque ha
because
sucedido
it's happened that
que caemos en esto
people believe
de no decir la verdad, ¿sí?
like not telling
Decir
the
las
truth,
cosas de otra manera,
telling-
sí,
saying
entonces,
things different.
no malinformar.
So we shouldn't misinform them.
Ah, como líderes,
As
¿sí?
leaders,
Hay que pedir las cosas, no mandar ni ordenar,
it's not order.
sí.
around.
Eso es una de las cosas que
One of the things
sí son importantes.
is important.
Otra cosa importante
Another
es
thing is
no prometer,
not promise.
sí, no hacer promesas,
We shouldn't make promises
no competir unos con
and
otros,
not compete with each other.
¿sí?
Because
Porque si queremos ser mejores,
if we
tenemos
want
que
to
ser
be
mejores
better, we have to be better
con nosotros mismos,
ourselves.
mejorar en nosotros,
ourselves
no querer ser
and
mejor
not
que los demás.
want to be better than other people.
Y otra de las cosas es no procrastinar, no dejar las cosas
Do things.
para mañana. Entonces,
So
a mí me gusta todo esto
I love
porque
those
son las
because
cosas
these
que
are
debemos de
things that
conocer
we should
de,
know
de lo que debe de hacer un líder y lo que no tiene que hacer uno.
and do as leaders and what we shouldn't do as leaders.
¿Algún comentario o pregunta?
Any comments or questions?
Bien dicho.
Well said.
Gracias.
I'm just trying to think through what this means in our meetings in particular, so that's where we mostly interact with each other. I think maybe going back to our meeting structure, I think sometimes I feel like we're up against the clock to make a decision. And so one thing I wanna do better is to like hold more space for other opinions. So I think that's also part of leadership. And we don't really have, besides what we have to vote on, we don't really have decision-making processes as a body. That's what's coming for me is,
Just because the conversation keeps going, we can take a stop and
well,
decide.
it's sometimes we're just like, okay, that's what this one person said and that's what we'll go with. Like, I think this is, I'm taking it because it's not really a personal example. Like, I think Aaron and I in one meeting had different perspectives on what to do with the handbook. I think I wanted to make like a 2-pager and Aaron was like, I don't think that's a good use of our time. And we don't have a way as a body to like decide when 2 people disagree.
I'm surprised I
There's a
disagree with
voting
you there.
right on those.
That's what I disagreed with you about creating a 2-pager.
I mean, I don't think it was worth our time either.
Cool.
I think that was your point.
I'm like always down for creating simpler artifacts. So.
Those
you
kind
on a
of
different
motions
day.
are supposed to be voted, then 3 out of 4, I think it's.
Yeah, you can vote, but you can also, I mean. Personally, but also just generally, you talk things through until there's agreement. I mean, if there's an issue where the HRC wants to just say you decide to submit a letter to city council and 2 commissioners feel very strongly about a particular city policy. I think the HRC needs to communicate on that. I feel this way. And the other 3 members don't agree. You can have spirited conversation. At the end of that, you could say like, well, we don't have consensus, therefore, we're not going to speak with one voice on this issue because we actually don't agree. But there could be a time where for an issue, for something like that, or I'm gonna come up with something silly, but like somebody doesn't want to takes an issue with the minutes, right? You vote on those every meeting, right? Somebody could say I don't, somebody could. Yeah, there are a million different examples where you have the ability to take a vote if you need to, you do, in fact. But it's usually not anything of contention, right? You're voting on minutes.
Yeah.
But when you're debating amongst yourselves, or either a path to take, or I think this should be on the work plan, I don't think it should be on the work plan. Talking it out until you arrive collectively at a decision is a perfectly appropriate decision-making tool. You don't always have to measure items, right? Like, we don't have a way to do that. I think there just haven't been very many times where you like come to contention and have to, you know, make a critical or consequential decision that is, you know, involves people from very different perspectives. But either of those are acceptable, except obviously when you're required to take a vote. Because the handbook says so.
What's important is that everybody expresses their opinion and views. So we know that everybody is in agreement, or at least the majority, without a vote. And move on with the decision.
And I think that we feel understood.
Listen, right? So at the end of the day, you know, leadership, yeah. Everybody has a different type of leadership, right? Probably not everybody has not all leaders have all what you said, but pieces of all those things, right? So when you combine the group of leaders, then you become more powerful when taking decisions.
How, Jorge, as a new member particularly, and as someone obviously with leadership qualities, how do you think we could better highlight all of our different leadership qualities.
Expressing that, so, because I guess all of us are here because we believe we have some leadership in ourselves. Right? And that we can give something of our leadership to the discussion. of the plan. So that's why we need to express ideas without fearing to be criticized or, because that's the whole point. Productive discussions and, arguments. Because I might just think that I have an idea, but then Aaron comes up with something that I never thought about. And I'm like, oh, that's it. He's right, I'm wrong. I think that's a success in taking decisions.
¿Algo más? Ok, entonces vamos a regresar a la carta. Entonces, ¿qué piensan?
I think it should be about building those bridges
Sorry,
with the
can I ask
council.
a quick question?
Yeah.
Did you earlier when I was out adjourn the formal meeting?
No.
It is a whole meeting. Like, it's not an adjournment for the retreat. It's the guidance I was given, it is a meeting.
Okay,
Yeah. And
What we thought is that we wanted to go through all the
yeah,
process before.
for sure, yeah. So can they decide right now whether to do a letter to council and that doesn't constitute?
no.
A decision or a vote. Thank you. Sorry, I missed.
We have the meeting on the 13th.
The 15th would be when we are
Yeah.
set to meet again for this.
So I'm thinking it would be great to send a letter. I think what you're talking about is like speaking about the building bridges, maybe about like the supporting marginalized, creating community awareness, whatever, but I think the building bridges is like this really core thing. It sounds like, I don't know, maybe some part of the letter is like, here's how we want to be orienting. And like, we would like to connect more with
Yep.
you and build more bridges with you, council, around that. And like, see if there's these perspectives that you want to bring in, like something like that, that just kind of is just bringing what we already talked about here into a little bit of a form that creates like an invitation into more connection with council. It's like something around that in the ballpark.
I agree.
Yeah.
What do you think? Sí.
Entonces tengo una propuesta. Que entre Jorge y Aaron hagan la carta y la revisamos en nuestra reunión.
Cool. Good.
¿Están de acuerdo?
Y'all agree with it?
Votemos.
Sí.
¿Algo más, Cristian?
In the meeting or no?
I do not believe so.
You did so good.
Wow, that was an efficient meeting.
3 hours. 3 hours.
There's various definitions of efficient.
It was a fail.
Typically, yeah, we have 2, we had 3 this time, and we are finishing. We need a.
Shall we adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
So, second.
Tenemos que hacer una moción.
Oh, yes, I motion
She
to
moved,
adjourn.
I second.
this meeting.
Now you just get to it. Yes.
Ok.
We need to get you a
Gracias a
gavel.
todos. Son las 7:54. Damos por terminada nuestra reunión de hoy.
Yay.
Thank you.
Y gracias a las intérpretes.
Thank you.
Yo les traje un regalito de Navidad. Yo pensé